Iceland, a magical landscape of moss-clad volcanoes and snow-peaked mountains, of steaming valleys, bubbling hot springs, and spectacular explosions. An island of lava risen from the sea. This is a land of extremes. This rugged wilderness was shaped by volcanic activity, then torn apart by forces from below. It's one of the most challenging environments on Earth, and yet Iceland's raw beauty is breathtaking and full of surprises. A deep crack runs right through the middle of Iceland, and in places fills up with water from underground springs, such as here in the Silfra Crack. At first sight, it appears lifeless. A brown trout has sought refuge in the clear waters. The Silfra never freezes, with temperatures remaining 2 degrees above zero. The dwarf char is the only fish to live in the crevice year-round. It's a miniature form of the Arctic char and became trapped here during the Ice Age. It's adapted to the shortage of food by remaining small. The crack continues to widen by 2 centimeters a year, pulled apart by the movement of tectonic plates. While fish may be few and far between, bright green algae, or troll hair, grows in abundance. The clear waters flowing into the Silfra have journeyed many miles through the porous rock from glaciers in Iceland's interior. Hardy alpine flowers are among the few that can eke out a living in this desolate landscape. Iceland's interior is a barren desert, and yet some animals are able to survive. A rock ptarmigan soaks up the sun's warming rays. On the plateau below, the black ground quickly heats up in the sun. As the warm air rises, it carries with it great clouds of volcanic ash that travel across the land as dust storms. The thin layer of soil is constantly on the move, so plants and animals struggle to gain a foothold. The glacial meltwater flowing off the mountains also quickly disappears. Winding its way across the Black Plain, it seeps into the porous lava rock and continues its flow below the surface. Iceland's volcanoes, cloaked in a mantle of green, are jewels in this bleak landscape. Their steep sides are sheltered from the wind, allowing mosses and grasses to grow. These provide food for the rock ptarmigan, which feeds on the tiny leaves and flowers. It's no fussy eater and gets by on a simple diet. While some volcanoes rise as perfect cones from the landscape, others are hidden from sight beneath the ice cap. Blackened by volcanic ash, this glacier straddles the 10-kilometer crater of the Katla volcano. Meltwater trickling through the cracks carves out spectacular tunnels and ice caves. The glacial streams finally empty out onto the open plain, depositing their load of volcanic debris. Along the edge of the glacier, a pair of whimbrels guard their nest. The call of the birds fills the air during the summer months. Nowhere else do whimbrels breed in such density. The short, tussocky grass provides perfect nesting conditions for 2/3 of the European population. Another wading bird, the snipe, adds its call to the symphony of summer sounds. But when it really wants to be heard, the snipe takes to the air. The bleating calls are produced by vibrating its tail feathers. While the snipe are still engaged in aerial display, the first curlew chicks have hatched. The chicks are on their feet within hours and eager to explore their surroundings. There are few land predators on the island, so the youngsters have little to fear. Nonetheless, most ground nesting birds and their chicks are well camouflaged. Even during the summer, the volcanic rock is relentlessly weathered by the elements. Meltwater rushes down in cascades from the glaciers, forming pools and lakes within the sculpted landscape. Lake Klefavatn is one of Iceland's deepest lakes. In places up to 100 meters deep. It lies directly above an area of volcanic activity. Hot water and gases bubble up from the seabed. They are deadly for most life. The hot sulfur springs seep from a crack in the Earth's crust, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Here, tectonic plates are being pulled apart, allowing hot water and volcanic gases to escape. A special community of bacteria thrive within the hydrothermal vents, covering the sea floor in a thick mat. Iceland is one of the most active volcanic regions in the world because it sits on a volcanic hotspot. A huge chamber of molten rock lies just beneath the surface and breaks through the Earth's crust again and again. The result is a chain of craters that pockmark the island, stretching in a band from north to south. Iceland has over 100 volcanic mountains. Some active, others dormant for thousands of years. They come in all shapes and sizes, giving the island its unique lunar landscape. The loose volcanic soil and porous rock retain little water, so plants are unable to gain much of a foothold. Rain and meltwater runs off the bare slopes and collects in marshy valleys below. With more than 10% of Iceland covered by glaciers, this huge store of water could raise global sea levels by 1 centimetre if it melted. In summer, the meltwater races down the mountains as icy streams, carrying with it huge quantities of volcanic ash and debris. Small streams turn into large rivers that fan out across the floodplains. And finally, the glacial waters deposit their heavy load into the sea. Hidden within the black sediment is Iceland's oldest inhabitant. The ocean quahog, or black clam, can live to be over 500 years old. These cold waters appear to provide ideal conditions for a long life. But avoiding danger is also crucial for survival. Starfish like to feed on mussels and are constantly scouring the sea floor for prey. A careless clam is quickly spotted. The suction pads on their feet can prise open even the thickest of shells. The sea stars then insert their everted stomach into the crack to digest the soft tissue of the clam. But given the choice, the starfish will go for an easier meal. These discarded shells have been cracked open by another hunter, and the sea stars are happy to scrape out the leftovers. But which hunter has been feasting here? The mussel fiend lives in a cavern within the rocks, but will only emerge to hunt at night. In the water above, humpback whales have arrived. They've traveled from the Gulf of Mexico to feed in the plankton-rich waters. Nourished by volcanic ash, the seas around Iceland support an abundance of algae and other microscopic creatures that turn the waters green. The whales will stay here all summer before heading back across the Atlantic. Summer also brings colour to the land. Grimsey Island lies just north of the mainland and is known for its lush green growth and nesting seabirds. Icelandic horses, a small pony-sized breed, graze on the pastures alongside hardy Icelandic sheep. During the Arctic summer, the sun barely drops below the horizon and floods the underwater kelp forests with continuous light. Plentiful sunlight and nutrients allow the kelp to flourish. And amongst the floating strands, a curious-looking fish, the lumpsucker. The female has come to lay her eggs within the kelp, but it's her colourful mate that will stay behind to guard them. Close to shore, a snowstorm of tiny feathers cloud the water. It's the byproduct of the 1 million seabirds that nest on Grimsey. Razorbills are small relatives of the giant auk that also once bred on the island, but was hunted to extinction. The birds have come here for the breeding season, seeking out the safety of the cliffs and the rich fishing grounds nearby. A single egg is laid precariously on an open ledge. But the attentive parents are never far away. The pair take turns keeping the egg safe and warm beneath them. Suitable nesting ledges are always in short supply, but nonetheless, over half the world population of razorbills come to Iceland to breed. In the seas below, life continues at a slower pace. Warm water spews out of tiny volcanic vents in the rock, heated by the furnace inside the Earth's core. Where hot and cold water meet, minerals crystallize and the underwater chimneys continue to grow. A male lumpsucker slowly patrols the waters around the bubbling vents. His reddish tint is a sign that he's guarding a nest. The eggs are hidden among the algae, but he needs to ensure that they get enough oxygen. So he uses his fins to fan the nest and keep the eggs aerated. Atlantic cod also thrive in these waters, but they prefer to stay deeper, searching the seafloor for edible morsels. Whilst elsewhere in the world cod stocks have plummeted, here they are making a remarkable recovery. As the light fades and night sets in, a more formidable hunter emerges from the shadows. The sea wolf, with its sharp fangs and powerful jaws, is equipped to deal with the toughest of prey. But a tough diet can take its toll, and not all sport a set of perfect teeth. As night falls, the grizzly predator emerges from its hideout to search for prey. The tasty morsel is taken back to be consumed in the privacy of its den. A pile of empty shells in front of the burrow leaves little doubt of the sea wolf's voracious appetite. With seemingly little effort, it breaks into the clam's thick shell. But the sea wolf is a messy eater, and small scraps remain for those in waiting. Even the Atlantic cod welcome the chance to dine on shellfish. But crunching away on hard shells all year leaves the sea wolf's teeth ground down and broken, so it will replace them all for a new set in the coming winter. While temperatures around the hydrothermal vents remain constant all year round, above water the seasons are changing. After a month of sitting on their egg, the razorbills are awaiting the arrival of their chick. The parent bird tries to help the youngster by gently cutting into the shell with its beak. Unlike razorbills, puffins dig an underground tunnel and leave their chick in the safety of the burrow. This allows both parents to go fishing and bring back sand eels for the growing youngster. The puffin's comical appearance is deceptive. It is in fact a superb fisherman, able to carry a beak full of catch whilst continuing to hunt for more. With near 24 hours of daylight, the adults supply their chick with food around the clock. Grimsey Island lies 40 kilometers north of Iceland. Surrounded by the wide Arctic Ocean, it straddles the polar circle, and on the night of the summer solstice, the sun never drops below the horizon. The razorbill chick is growing fast, and it's rarely left alone. Since the parents raise just one chick each season, they want to ensure that it has the best chance of survival. Sand eels are also on the menu here. With conditions perfect for fishing, the puffins head out to sea in small flocks, seeking safety in numbers. Their short, stubby wings are better suited for swimming than flying, so a thermal current provides a welcome lift. As the warm air rises beneath them, they sail effortlessly on the breeze. The razorbills also use the favorable conditions to launch themselves into the air. Once underwater, the puffin's short wings really come into their own. They push through the water almost as if they were flying. Razorbills glide through the water just as effortlessly, able to dive to 100 meters or more in search of food. Birds can stay below the water for up to 2 minutes before they need to return to the surface for air. Iceland's cold waters are home to a surprisingly rich community of life. A lion's mane jellyfish, the largest in the world, with tentacles longer than a blue whale. It thrives in these plankton-rich seas. The plankton also supports small fish, like sand eels, that the breeding seabirds depend on. With such a rich supply of food right on the doorstep, it's no wonder that the birds return to these cliffs year after year. More than 5 million Atlantic puffins breed in Iceland, over half the world's population. And yet, in recent years, their numbers have been plummeting. This charismatic bird, it seems, is becoming the latest victim of climate change. While this colony appears to be doing well, others are struggling. Sand eel populations are declining with rising sea temperatures, and many puffins are struggling to feed their chicks. This bird has returned without a meal. Its chick will have to go hungry today. While the cliffs of Grimsey are no more than 100 meters high, Iceland's mountains behind stand over 2,000 meters tall. The island was once covered by a gigantic glacier, with only the knife-edged peaks peering out above. Today, they are witness to Iceland's ancient past, rugged and untouched by the glaciers that carved out the smooth valleys below. Ice and water continue to shape the landscape today. Gigantic waterfalls cascade down cliffs, wearing away the rock and carving out pools and caves. A number of glaciers snake their way to the coast, slowly cutting a path through the volcanic rock. Iceland's largest glacier, Vatnajökull, empties both ice and meltwater into a vast lagoon. Nearly 250 meters deep, it never freezes and is filled with magnificent icebergs that slowly drift towards the sea. At low tide, icebergs build up at the narrow outlet to the sea. Until the returning tide sweeps them out of the lagoon and onto the black volcanic sand. Here they lie stranded like jewels on the aptly named Diamond Beach. Tidal flow in the lagoon appears timeless, and yet the ice lake only appeared in the 1930s, when the giant glacier Vatnajökull started to retreat. It's now the country's deepest lake, growing bigger by the day. Harbour seals gather in the icy water. They're after the fish that become trapped here with each tide. And at the mouth of the lagoon, kittiwakes and Arctic tern patrol the shoreline, picking off prey as it drifts in and out from the sea. The oceans around Iceland teem with life and are one of the world's richest fishing grounds. This explosion of life is driven by the prevailing ocean currents and by the continuous supply of volcanic ash. The nutrient-rich sediments allow plankton to flourish and provide food for other marine life. The common dab is one of the most abundant in these waters. The curious-looking fish stay near the bottom of the sea, where they can quickly hide in the soft mud at the slightest sign of danger. With their flattened bodies and drab colours, the dab are virtually undetectable against the sea floor. And they're not the only fish to use this strategy to hide in plain sight. The thornback ray, although nearly twice as large, is well camouflaged as it slowly glides across the sandy bottom, searching for food. Above water, this hunter makes little effort to hide. The Arctic skua has a nest on the far side of the lagoon. She's waiting for her last egg to hatch. Her first chick has already emerged and wastes no time in exploring. The mother calls the youngster back to the nest. The small chick is still dependent on her for body warmth and protection. Snow buntings are also breeding on the shores of the lake. The male's loud song proclaims ownership of his territory and his mate. And while he is busy singing, she takes care of the young. When all hungry mouths have had their fill, peace and quiet descends on the nest. The icy lagoon may appear inhospitable, but with fish in abundant supply, it attracts birds from near and far. Arctic terns are among the noisiest, and with near 24 hours of daylight, they can feed around the clock. But the terns have to keep a watchful eye. There are pirates around. A tern or a gull with a catch is soon spotted. The Arctic skua's long wings make them faster and more maneuverable than their target. Attacking their victim in mid-air, they try to force it to drop its catch. easy meal for the aerial pirate. With a crop full of fish, the skua heads back to its nest. Not every catch ends up in the pirate's lair. But sometimes a close neighbour steals the meal from right under your nose. The Arctic skua chick is still on a soft diet of pre-digested food. With the chick's hunger satisfied for the moment, the male can turn his attention to the unhatched egg. And now it's the female's turn to head out to feed. The giant glacier that sustains life in the lagoon is no relic of the Ice Age. It only began to form 2,500 years ago, when the Earth's climate started to cool. Today, it covers nearly a tenth of Iceland, but it's melting faster than anyone could have predicted. Some of the meltwater seeps straight into the ground and travels for many kilometers through the porous rock before emerging to form inland pools and lakes. Along the mid-Atlantic ridge that runs through the middle of the country, fractures in the tectonic plates have opened up to allow glacial water to flood in. The visibility below the surface is more than 100 meters, and temperatures an icy 2 degrees centigrade. And here too, the rift between the plates is growing by a couple of centimeters a year. Iceland is slowly but surely being pulled apart. In some lakes, the glacial water emerges after being warmed deep within the belly of the Earth. The bubbling hot springs keep temperatures pleasantly warm throughout the year and allow life to thrive. Small single-celled organisms that filter particles from the water with tiny rotating hairs. And a colourful community of algae of all shapes and sizes. These plant-like organisms exploit the long hours of sunlight to grow and reproduce. And they provide food for other tiny creatures, such as moss piglets. Each pool, lake or stream has its own unique community of life, as do the steaming vents that breathe out hot gases from the island's volcanic interior. As summer draws to an end, the days get shorter. On Grimsey Island, the puffins head out to sea for the last time. All summer, they've been flying to and fro, feeding their young on fish provided by the bountiful waters. Now their chicks have flown the nest, and the puffins are returning to the open ocean where they will remain until the following season. The end of summer marks a change in weather as the air turns damp and cold. Icelandic winters are wet and mild, with sudden icy spells that blow in from the north. But even as the land turns frosty white, the water continues to flow. And in the depths, below the icy turbulence, animals gather to seek shelter from the worst of the winter. Whatever the weather above, temperatures down here remain a few degrees above freezing. Hundreds of Arctic char have sought out the deep pool. They will spend the winter here in the warmer water. For the next few months, they won't feed and move very little to save energy. For those on land, conditions are much tougher. The Arctic fox has to withstand icy winds and temperatures well below zero. The fox is Iceland's only native mammal, and its thick fur provides it with the best insulation of any mammal on Earth. Unlike Arctic foxes in other parts of the world, it keeps its brown coat all year round. Searching for scraps of food along the shoreline, the fox will eke out a meager living until spring returns. Winters are tough for all that live on this harsh volcanic island, a land shaped by water, fire, and ice.